This is Made for More Living with Johnny Jennings, powered by EXP Realty. Online at madeformoreliving.com.
So, Matt, remember in 2015 that balcony that collapsed?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely. A lot of people, didn't a few people die from that?
Yep, some people, yeah. And so basically, there are still ramifications. So what was crazy about that deck is the building was not old. Like, it wasn't built in like the 1800s. It was a relatively new building.
But wasn't it a beachfront property?
No, it
wasn't?
Well, I think it was Berkeley.
It was the Airbnb. So there was a beachfront property that was an Airbnb in Malibu where they rented the place and had a party on the back deck and it collapsed.
That's what I remember.
What was the Berkeley one, though?
The Berkeley one is what was the foundation of the law that was actually passed. So the building was built in 2004. It was a new stucco building. The collapse happened in 2015.
Okay.
It's student housing. It was a 21st birthday party.
Yeah.
And 6 people passed away.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's crazy. So, by the way, we're talking with Stefan. He is from the Good Life, right?
Yes.
He's with Good Life. Yeah, inspections. They do. They're our preferred vendor. They do. Like, what don't you guys do?
Yeah, that's what we want to
do.
know.
Everything.
What don't you do? Do you base turkeys? Because ours was really dry this Thanksgiving.
I don't know if you want us basting a turkey, but you do want us rebuilding your house if it burns down to a fire. You do want us inspecting your house if you're buying or selling a house. We do all things reconstruction. If a tree falls and hits a house, we could come in and dry out the house. We can do any reconstruction associated with the house. This secret sauce, very quickly, we don't subcontract stuff. So we do stuff with all of our own employees. It's a really, really big deal. That is a rarity because people try to avoid workers' comp and overhead in business in California.
Yeah.
So when we are out at people's properties, it is our people that are going in there. They're our own employees that have been vetted. They're not day workers.
Yep. And there's that built-in accountability because it's like, no, they got to show up tomorrow.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So what we're talking about, though, is this balcony change in laws, right? And so there's SB 721 and 326.
Yes.
And it sounds like a whole bunch of like legalese, not that exciting, but this is going to have huge ramifications, like immediately for people who are living or looking to purchase in HOA communities.
Correct.
You mind explaining a little bit about what's happening?
Yes. So there's 2 laws. SB 721 affects multi-unit properties, investment properties.
So that 4 units or more, 2 units or more?
3 units or more.
Okay.
But that represents 8 million people in the state of California.
Wow.
People don't realize that. So in a state of 40 million, 8 million people are living in apartments.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't realize that until I started driving around town. We are an inspection company. We started specializing in these inspections 3 years ago. We inspect roughly 1,000 of these properties a month in the state of California.
Wow.
We have our own engineering team. We have a plan on how we do this. And when you drive around, go up or down in any city in California and look at all the apartments that are around. Same thing with the HOAs. So there's not a lot of inventory in California right now.
Yeah.
Definitely in an affordable price point. Mm-hmm. So right now, a lot of people are actually looking at condos. So it's 3 or more units, SB 721 for the multi-unit situation, SB 326 for the condos and the HOAs.
So how is this impacting condos? Because you guys inspect a lot of properties. You're seeing firsthand the ramifications that I didn't realize how much of a veneer stucco was. Like,
yes.
When you peel back the stucco, it is nasty underneath. So what are you guys seeing?
So the stucco actually creates its own microclimate. I'm from New York City, and we build things out of steel and brick and concrete.
Men are men.
We're men are men. And not sure about the women, but the men are definitely men. Women are women. So the stucco surface can actually contain, so the property that collapsed in balcony, you would be shocked. It looked like something you would see in Cabo. It's stucco, it's Mediterranean style, it's fancy, it looks great. If there is a water leak there, even a small water leak, it can accelerate the process of the rot. So that balcony did not collapse because of poor building codes or weight. The balcony collapsed because of dry rot.
That's a good point. the balcony was not overweighted. Like there wasn't too many people on it.
We overbuild things. We build things 2, 3, 4 times stronger than it actually needs to be. It's a maintenance thing and it's a rot thing. So if that was a traditional deck that you see at someone's house in Sacramento, Carmichael, Granite Bay, where it's pressure treated lumber and redwood, that deck lasts 20, 30 years and then you have to do some repairs to it. After 30 years, you probably replace it. But you could see what's going on there. On these stucco buildings, and this applies to houses too, in Elk Grove, in Rockland, in Roseville, in Granite Bay, in our region, stucco is everywhere. Yep. And then in the nicer the house that you have in suburbia, oftentimes they put decks on the back of the houses. Mm-hmm. As an inspection company, I've been inspecting, a state licensed inspector for 33 years. That's the number one exposure in a real estate transaction. Yep. It's the number one big ticket item that we see. There's dry rot on every building that's over 5 years old. The dry rot's $500 to fix, $1,000 to fix, $2,000 to fix. You could get it credited in a real estate transaction and deal with it later. Oftentimes the dry rot is in a non-structural part of the building, right?
It's like siding trim.
Siding trim, the outside eaves, something like that. Yeah. In this case, we're talking about structural damage. So the water gets into these deck areas, and it does not matter what the price point is on the house. It doesn't matter if you paid $500,000 for a brand new house in West Roseville or $12 million for the house in Serrano. It does not matter. The water will find its way in there. You may or may not see the leak that's happening there. You have to have a great inspection done. You have to know what the warning signs are, like water stains or cracks in the stucco. You have to further inspect it. This is really important for the traditional market. You have to further inspect it. People look at the termite inspections. They look at the termite reports for dollars to negotiate.
So you showed me some photos of homes. Like I was looking at these balconies. They looked perfectly fine.
Yes.
And then you just drilled a little hole, sent a scope in.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh, this is not structurally sound anymore. You peel it back, and basically the stucco was all that was holding this balcony together.
Johnny, that's exactly it. With my 33 years of inspecting experience, we go out to properties and we can't see the framing, and per the law, we have to see the framing. We don't even have to see evidence or damage of evidence. We don't have to see stains or cracks. It is within the law. You have to drill through the stucco and take a look at the framing. And one time out of 4, when we drew through that stucco and take a look at the framing, there's water staining there and there's compromised wood to the point where it can collapse. We were inspecting a property in Davis. They were having a quinceanera outside on the deck.
Quinceanera, yeah.
I'm not saying it right.
I've been to my fair. I'm from California, not New York.
Yes, you know? Yes. I'm Italian New Yorker, and I'm not good with it, right? I didn't have an avocado until I was 40.
Oh, so gosh, you missed out.
Yeah, a little weird. We were at this quinceanera. We were at this inspection, and we were inspecting it while they were on top of the deck. Every piece of wood under that deck was completely rotted, and the deck had dropped 4 inches.
Whoa.
So we couldn't tell until we put a laser level on it because it was a larger deck. We literally had to ask the party to go inside, put caution tape up. We had to put caution tape. This is a condo. We had to put caution tape at the unit down below. We had to re-support it, and we had to contact county code enforcement.
Oh my gosh. And they had no idea. They're having a party.
Yes.
It looks fine. Was there any staining, any indication?
Nothing. No staining, no cracks. We put a scope in there. We drill a hole that can accommodate like a pen or a pencil. We have this fancy camera that goes in there and scopes it. And that's how we found the damage.
Got it. So you're giving the deck a colonoscopy.
Yes,
basically.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Awesome. So let's just talk about, people are saying, okay, now I'm a little scared, a little nervous, whether you have a single family home and that decking is wrapped in stucco, or whether you're in an HOA community. At least with a single family home, nobody's going to potentially pressure you into moving or fixing that deck immediately. You can budget for it. You can wait for
Yes.
You can wait till you have the funds. But that's not exactly what's happening with the HOAs, right?
Correct.
So can you talk a little bit about like why, if you were living in an HOA community that has decks right now,
yes,
like specifically condos, how this is going to impact you?
In an HOA, in a condominium community, and again, I am not a HOA specialist at all. I am not an attorney. but I've been working around the HOAs for decades, and I understand a little bit how they work. I've sat in front of board meetings and association meetings. It could get very sticky, very aggressive at the end of the day.
Yeah.
You have all different types of people that live in HOAs. You have 25-year-olds that are farmer reps that are making $250,000 a year, and then you have retired people. So HOA communities, condos specifically, it feels like it's a diverse community because you got people that are going up in life that, don't need a lot of space and they don't want to do a lot of maintenance, or they're on the backside of life where they're kind of downsizing in life.
Correct.
And I think that that's what actually makes the association meetings a little bit difficult at times, because you got young people and you got some older folks, and they don't necessarily, there's a generation or two in between, and they don't see eye to eye on things like maintenance. Today, people want it hard and fast, and they want it now. They're not patient, right?
Yeah.
So with this, a HOA community is supposed to get a reserve study done every 3 years. I believe every HOA is its own LLC. It's a corporation. And if you think about the state of California, we're talking about 3 or more units. So pretty much every HOA community that is a corporation is worth $1 million.
Yep.
$1 million is a lot of money. You need to get insurance on that. There's multiple insurance policies that go with these HOAs. They have a main insurance policy. They have specific insurance policies from the sheetrock in. Then the HOA has its own policy for the outside and the common areas, right?
Yeah.
So what happens with this law right now, they get this reserve study done, and the reserve study helps people budget. So every year they budget. Every 3 years they get the reserve study. And the reserve study guy says, you're going to need roofs in the next 10 years. Ballpark cost is $2 million. You should start budgeting it. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to do your asphalt in the next 5 years. Start budgeting for it. No one knew about this deck and balcony thing. No one talked about the deck and balcony thing. It is literally active 31 days from today. So 31 days from today, we have...
What date does it go live?
January 1st of 2025, okay. SB 326.
Okay.
So there's homeowners associations right now that are going to lose their insurance coverage January 1st of 2025 if they are not compliant.
So what does compliant look like?
Compliant looks like getting an inspection. First and foremost, getting an inspection. You have to do a 95% sampling of the community.
How much?
95%.
What?
Yes. You're looking at the majority of the decks and balconies out there. There's a coefficient, there's a mathematical ratio that we put into our app that tells us what the percentages are, but 95% at the end of the day. So we get the inspection done. Anything that is found, oftentimes it is maintenance items, right? That we identify maintenance items, caulk, seal, paint, everything's cool. It's a couple $1,000s, not the end of the world. Every once in a while, when we drill in, we find damage, but it doesn't mean that it's structurally compromised. It means that there's damage there. And then every once in a while, and it's happening more and more now, where you're getting structural damage. If there is structural damage there, it is considered unsafe, and it has to be reported within 15 days to the local building department.
Wow.
The policing agency for this, the law was not written well. I don't want to pick on the politicians, but someone sat in a cubicle somewhere and wrote this law. They didn't investigate the other laws that affect this and licensing stuff, right? So there is no policing agency for this. It falls back onto the counties and the local jurisdictions. The people that wrote the law said that they wrote the law because they wanted the counties to have flexibility in how they did it, right? Mm-hmm. And what we feel like right now, what it seems like at the end of the day, the building department doesn't have any policing jurisdiction. They give it to their code enforcement department. Okay. So code enforcement officials are going to be going out. The fines on these, if a property is found to be compromised or not compliant, is $300 to $500 per day.
Per day.
Per day. There are different cities in the region that are very aggressive with their code enforcement.
Sure. I could easily see this as a revenue opportunity for counties and cities, for sure. They're gonna jump on that.
Man, so if you're living in an HOA community and you have decks,
yes,
especially decks that maybe are wrapped in stucco that have not been inspected in recently,
correct,
in the last 3 years, you may have an issue with this. So you can see your one of two things happening, or both, right? HOA costs increasing dramatically.
Correct.
Because they now have to raise funds to make all these decks safe.
Yes.
So if you're used to a $300 a month HOA fee, it may jump up to $400, $500, $700 a month.
Correct.
Which nobody wants. Or is there also a possibility that they may have to come up with the cash up front?
Yes, and that's what's happening now. There's a thing called a special assessment. We just recently learned that vernacular of special assessment to where they're trying to get compliant within the next month or so by just getting the inspection done. Heaven forbid there's damage there, because that has to be done too in the next 30 days, which is absolutely impossible.
So as soon as it's identified, it has to be rectified.
It has to be addressed. If it's compromised, if it's structurally compromised, it has to be addressed within 120 days.
Okay.
But if you're trying to get compliant by January 1st, that's not happening.
Yeah.
If you work with now these local building departments and local code enforcement people, if you're proactive and don't hide and communicate well, they will grant you extensions.
Okay.
I have gotten different HOAs in the community, more than 30 extensions in the last 6 months or so.
Okay.
If you run and cover from it, if you hide from it, they will start hitting you. We have an HOA in Sacramento right now that's being fined $35,000 a week. There is a large HOA in Sacramento that has a lot of wood siding to it, and they're getting fined by the county $35,000 a week.
Wow.
Every week.
Well, the county's happy, I guess.
The county's happy. Some of the counties and cities are, I think they may budget around this.
Are you serious?
So they're very, very aggressive on their fining. So they're generating big revenue at the end of the day. And the other cities and counties aren't super organized, if you will. So right now, I don't know how much training they were doing on the law itself until they realized that after January 1st of 2025, if there's a collapse, say 6 months after January 1st, attorneys get involved. If someone gets hurt, heaven forbid, someone dies, everyone gets named in a lawsuit, right? And the second question, whoever owns the property, the HOA, and then they're going to ask, the attorneys will ask the question, who's responsible for policing this stuff? That comes up. And then it's going to come up that the county or the city's responsible for policing it. Although they can, they have some insulation from things like that, it won't stop them from being added to the lawsuit at the end of the day.
And named. Wow. So what I'm hearing is, if you're listening to the show and you are thinking about purchasing in an HOA community that has balconies, make sure that you understand what it is you're buying.
Yes.
And if that special assessment has been done and if the fees have been updated. If you're looking to sell, understand what you may be getting yourself into and make sure that that is disclosed to the potential buyer.
100%.
So they don't come back and sue you.
100%.
The downside, it just really is unfortunate this is happening like condos, because like you said earlier, a lot of people are purchasing condos when they are first, that's the first home they buy.
Yeah.
Or that may be one of the last properties they own. And budgets are tight. And now all of a sudden you're getting hit with these special assessments. The thing, if I lived in a community and I knew that this was happening, I would be tempted just to put my house on the market and sell it.
Yes.
Oh, that's actually pretty interesting. You're right.
But everybody would probably be tempted to do that before property values potentially drop.
Yes.
And so if you are living...
You have to disclose something like that?
I
or you
would.
probably don't do is that something that would need to be added to the inspection list when you're selling your home?
So what do you mean? What would be added?
Like your regular pest inspection, all that kind of stuff. Inspecting the balcony. So
yeah, if we have Good Life,
yeah,
not some other fly-by-night type of inspection
right,
company.
Sure. So they inspect the balconies, and then obviously that's something you have to disclose to the buyers that, hey, there's issues with the balconies. That's going to have to be fixed right away.
So that's
not something that can wait down the road. That's something they would have to fix. Even probably before. I wonder if they would be able to sell the house before that.
Depending on the severity of the issue. But here's the thing. That you're talking about a seller proactively going out and spending money to inspect a balcony. That's not likely to happen. It's something we suggest. We're big fans of doing pre-inspections.
Right. So if they assume there's some issue, they probably wouldn't do that.
But most sellers would. Most sellers don't do that. It's the buyers that do it. And so now all of a sudden you're in escrow. You're trying to buy your next property. You're in transition. And now all of a sudden you're hit with a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 request for repairs that you were not budgeting for.
Right.
That's especially at condo price points. We're not talking about a $2 million home. We're talking about a $300,000, maybe a $450,000 property. and now you have to pay 10% out.
Correct.
Like that's a lot of money.
Correct.
So
we saw this happen recently in the multi-unit market. People are buying buildings. There's a property in Rancho Cordova. It generates great cash. We're seeing more problems on the multi-unit buildings and apartment buildings because it's investment. Some of them haven't been painted or caulked in 2 decades, right?
Yeah.
There's going to be damage there. And the HOAs, typically, they're pretty good about painting, caulking, and doing maintenance. They try. Someone is aware of it at least. So oftentimes we're seeing not as much damage on the condos as we are seeing on the apartment buildings. So we did an inspection on this 3-building complex with 60 units. We found $1.5 million in damage. And the owner from the Bay Area said, you know what? I'm not fixing it. I'm going to sell it. I don't want to deal with it anymore. Got it. Awesome. Put it on the market. They got into contract. The buyer went to go get insurance, and the first question they asked is,
Sure.
Is it SB 721 compliant?
Right. Oh my gosh.
oh boy.
Couldn't get insurance on it.
Oh, so he couldn't even sell the property.
Correct. Went back and got it fixed.
Oh my gosh.
And
Was forced to get it fixed pretty much.
We're already having challenges with insurance companies in California.
Yeah. So did he keep the property or did he have to
Ended up keeping the property.
Okay.
Ended up fixing the property. There's all types of loans that you could get on the back end to restore the property. They own 20 properties collectively.
Okay.
And I think in retrospect, I think they're happy that they kept the property. Good Life did the repair work on it. It turned out amazing. We have the ability to keep the tenants in the property. Good Life also has the ability in an HOA to keep people inside their properties. It
Wow.
doesn't sound like a big deal, but a lot of these places have common spaces with stairs and landings with condos on how they get into their units so they don't have to be displaced.
Love that.
That is a big deal because people don't figure that into the budget. So they get a budget of $100,000 to fix a walkway, but they're not considering the other $100,000 because the job is going to take 4 months. Could take 6 months depending on planning and permitting. And, if they can't stay in their place, they have to relocate. Sometimes it could stay with family, sometimes not. Hotels, food, pets, kids, all the things.
Yeah.
So considering all those other things on the back end, it can be cumbersome.
Wow. Well, when we come back, we're going to talk more about what makes Good Life different than your average inspection company.
Awesome.
So, Mike, you are passionate about planes.
Oh, yes.
You love to talk about it any chance you get.
I have more planes on my phone than I do people and dogs.
But, that's understandable because you're passionate about that. Our friend Johnny Jennings with Made for More Realty, you know what he's passionate about? He's passionate about real estate. And that's the kind of guy you want when it comes to selling your home or helping you purchase a home. In fact, recently he helped Jessica and Brian. They were selling their home and retiring out of state. They needed to make the most money possible because it was part of their retirement plan. They were able to get them an offer $35,000 above list and help them make a smooth move out of state.
And that passion is used to your benefit because the Johnny Jennings team with Made for More Realty will sell your home on average 27% faster and get you a 3% higher purchase price. And if there are ever any problems, you can trust that the entire team is working to solve them. That is why they've been voted #1 team in Roseville for the last 3 years, and they have over 800 5-star Google reviews. You expect more, get more with Johnny Jennings and the Tom Daves team at Made for More Realty. Just Google Made for More Realty today and get more for your home. License number 1982171.